Cool. Let's get started then. I'm gonna do a lot of stuff during it, but I'll say when there's like 10 seconds in chat, or 5 seconds. Okay. Let's get going. It's basically when the intro fades out. It's the start of the timing. So after Banjo does his song. It doesn't matter if we're a little bit off because I've got splits running as well, so I'll know the proper time. Anyway, welcome everyone. This is Banjo-Kazooie 80%. This route has been through a lot of changes over the years. If you're familiar with this game casually, you'll know that you need 92 jiggies to beat the game, 810 notes, so that's almost everything. So 810 out of 900 notes, 92 out of 100 jiggies. Sorry, 94 jiggies, not 92. Basically we can skip a bunch of jiggies in this category. So there was a skip for Door of Grunty, which is the last door of the game, that skips 25, and there was heaps of levels early. This run is on Xbox, which is really recent. I'll just do this glitch and then I'll keep explaining. So 5 seconds to go. Alright, so this is supposed to be a demo, but when they ported this game to Xbox, they didn't check properly for if you're holding the camera stick when you start a demo. So I hold it to the side and then it desyncs the demo, Banjo dies. The file that I'm playing on right now is the demo file, so it has all the moves unlocked and it has like 50 feathers, 100 eggs, 10 gold feathers. Has 25 Mumbo tokens as well for some reason, but it doesn't have any progress through the game, so it has no notes, no jiggies yet. But we'll get notes and jiggies. So the reason that this run is faster on Xbox than N64 is because Xbox has this demo desync glitch. You do make the trade-off that you can't do the Door of Grunty skip that I was talking about earlier. Oh, that's not good. I'm just going to wait a little bit here, just for safety. So this run's going to be pretty much just a mad rush to get 810 notes. By the end of the game we also need 25 jiggies to open Door of Grunty, but the notes are the real bottleneck here. Oh, okay. We're through probably one of the hardest parts of the run. Luckily it's right at the start though. So the first level here is Rusty Bucket Bay, and there's two reasons we're starting here. So it's the best level to start in, and it's the only level that we can sort of die in the demo in, because there's no loading zones that work during the demo or anything, and even if Banjo takes 5 hits during the demo, he doesn't die. He has to actually fall into a death plane like an engine room. So that's the only level we can do, but it's also the best level to do, because what I'm going to do is, after I exit this level, I'm going to hit the water level switch, and that raises the water level. So usually what you would need to do is come in as the pumpkin and hit the water level switch with the pumpkin after Mad Monster Mansion. But we don't need that, so we can skip the entire pumpkin transformation. And furthermore, we'll find that in this run, I'm going to be taking the B out of Click Clock Wood. You're not supposed to be able to do that, but there's a glitch that lets you do that. And if you take the B out of Click Clock Wood, you can basically fly into all these levels without opening them. So that's where we skip most of our jiggies for this run, and that's why it's so much faster than 100%. So we only need 3 jiggies to open Mumbo's Mountain and Treasure Trove Cove. Then we need another 15 jiggies to open Click Clock Wood, and then 25 for Dora Grunty. So 43 jiggies, I guess we need. N64 80% needs 33 jiggies, but it's slower because you have to open Mad Monster Mansion and do the whole pumpkin thing. And in this, like in N64 80%, once you're the B, you don't need jiggies anymore, but there's a bunch of really quick jiggies as the B that we get in this category. So that's pretty much what any percent is, and now I guess I'll talk about some basic movement strategies. So this run is very full of glitches, but when you start going for low times, you're assumed to hit the glitches first try, so you've got to go for good movement. Talon Trot is what I'm in now, which is walking on Kazooie's legs, and that's the fastest form of movement that you can do normally. And you'll notice that I'm jumping a lot, and the reason for that is because when you're in Talon Trot and you walk, you take a little while to walk up to full speed, but if you jump, then you get to full speed instantly. So you always want to start your movement by jumping. But when you jump, there's like this little slide that you do at the end. And if you reach the end of that little slide, you lose basically all of your speed, and you have to build it up again. So what you do is you jump again to avoid the end of the slide. So you're going to hear a lot of Kazooie Roo noises, and that's pretty much every Banjo speedrun, apart from the category without Talon Trot. So we're almost done in Rusty Bucket Bay. We don't have to get everything in here, we're only going to get 92 notes out of 100. And we only need 810 notes in the whole game. So we're going to be skipping 90 notes in total. And figuring out which 90 notes to skip is very hard. Now, I'm going to grab this cauldron up here for safety. The route that I'm about to do with this cauldron is roughly, I guess, probably 15 or 20 seconds slower than the route that I would do in my PB or record run. But it's not worth going for the cauldronless route in this marathon. And what you saw me do off that water switch was I got into Talon Trot before the cutscene, and that essentially makes it so Banjo doesn't rise up with the water. That's something called a quick dive, and it's a pretty obscure form of quick dive that I did just then, but we'll be seeing more quick dives in the run. Where they're usually used is you exit Talon Trot as you're falling into some water, and it makes you sink really deep without having to swim down. You'll see a note door off to the side there, the 640 door. We don't need to open that. We can just do that instead. I'm coming through here to spawn the puzzle podium for Click Clock Wood. We won't open it right away, but we will soon. So pretty much with this 80% route, half of the game is going to be played as Banjo, and then half of it is going to be played as the Bee. So we need a few jiggies and stuff to open Quick Lock Wood, which is why we have a few Banjo levels. And so I'm basically just going to do the levels that are cheapest in terms of jiggies to get in, which will be the first 2 levels. So the run is looking pretty weird from the start here, starting in Rusty Bucket Bay, but it'll look a bit normal after this, because I'll be doing Mumbo's Mountain next. And a few things about the Xbox version. The controls are a little bit different, so on N64 the camera is usually inverted, but on Xbox it's kind of normal, which feels backwards. It takes a bit of getting used to, but you can. And the Xbox controls are actually quite nice. It's a very good port. But the biggest thing is that you can't actually skip text on Xbox. So we're going to be seeing a lot of text boxes. And also the Xbox version is built off the US version 1.1. And that version fixes 2 glitches that we know of. It fixes climbing Ticker's Tower without the termite, and it fixes a roof in the Mad Monster Mansion well. So those 2 things are fixed on Xbox as well. Between those 2 things, this Xbox console is slower than N64 for 100%, between text skip and the glitch fixes. But I mean, it's faster for any percent because you skip opening Mad Monster Mansion and skip all the pumpkin and water switch nonsense. And what you just saw me do there was a Talon Trot into a loading zone. I'll be trying to hit lots of those throughout the run. I mean, what it does essentially is it overlaps your time that you spend getting into Talon Trot with the time.
At Firehouse subs are hot, hearty, and extraordinary. Every sub helps provide life-saving equipment for first responders. Introducing the new pastrami Reuben with our sweet and tangy slaw. Just $6.39 for a medium. Firehouse subs. Enjoy more subs, save more lives.
Oh, did I? Hold on. Sorry about this. Man, I haven't had this issue in so long.
Adam here from the Digital Gojo Showroom. We got the top 15 questions on the Sony a7R III just after this. Hey, so today we're going to go over the top 15 questions on the Sony a7R III. This camera came out just at the end of October of last year, so only a few months ago. We got a very professional camera over here, 42 megapixel dual SD card slot, 10 frames per second, 4K video recording, extremely good dynamic range, but a lot of customers that are interested in this camera have tons of questions, so I'm going to go over those questions that we're getting in customer service for you on this video today. So let's start out with question number 1. So for any new camera that's coming out today, whether it's from Sony, Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, a lot of video shooters are requesting at least the camera to do 120 frames per second in 1080. Now, certain cameras do crop it when shooting in 120 frames per second. So the question is, does the a7R III crop when recording in 120 frames per second? No, it doesn't. It actually uses the full width of the sensor. So take a look at some of the sample footage. I'll show you between 60 frames per second and 120 frames per second. So another question that we get is, what is the max ISO when recording video? When recording video, you have an ISO of 100 all the way up to 32,000. But if you're going to record photos, you can go all the way up to 102,400. Again, in video, you're limited to 32,000 ISO, and that's where it tops out. All right, let's move on to the next question. So the a7S II is still Sony's flagship low light monster. That thing just gobbles up photons, and it performs extremely well under low light. So a lot of people had a question: how does the A7R III compare to the A7S II in similar lighting conditions? Let's go over to the studio and take a look at the comparison between the A7R III.
And I forgot to get that back up to you. This Jiggy is supposed to need the termite for, but you can do some slope abuse. The way that the slopes work in this game is once you're on the slope for 1 second, it'll try and slip you off the slope, like it did there. But leading up to that 1 second, you can kind of walk and jump on it freely. And the way that it determines it is that 1 second only starts ticking up while you're over a slope. So basically, if your shadow's touching a slope, that 1 second will be ticking up. But you can reset that 1 second by jumping back over flat ground. You don't actually have to touch flat ground, you just jump over the flat ground. So that's really nice. As I said before, Xbox patched Ticker's Tower as the termite. They didn't actually patch the slope manipulation. They just patched the specific slope in Ticker's Tower. So you can still do slope manipulation everywhere, apart from there. What the slope in Ticker's Tower does is it just slips you off after 0 seconds now, so yeah, there's no getting up there as Banjo. Well, there is, but it's TAS only. A lot of people might have very bad memories of all the swimming in this game, especially in Clanker's Cavern. The good thing is this category actually skips a lot of the big swimming sections, because we're going to do those at speed. So there's not too much to deal with. But there's still these few little ones. Clanker's Cavern as the bee is actually pretty significantly faster than as Banjo, just because of the swimming. Oh. Nice. There's this thing that can happen with Blubber where you stand where the Jiggy's gonna spawn during the cutscene, and you grab the Jiggy during the cutscene. But it's like, depends on Blubber's position, which is RNG. And the basic theme of TTC is we're going to get as many Jiggies as we can in flying, because it skips the little dance that Banjo does, which takes about 4.5 seconds. Ideally I would be on 2 health there, but I grabbed some backups because you can die, and it's really bad if you die. This category is very restrictive on the amount of lives that you have. Another one of those Jiggies in flying, our favourites in TTC. Alright, and we only get 99 notes, which bothers a lot of people. But there's one note that's really slow in TTC, which is kind of across from that lockup Jiggy, across from the chest. Alright. Now we're going to go open Click Lockwood. So basically this run is a mad rush to get to Click Lockwood so that we can get the B and start breaking the game. Only 99. Ah, no. That grungy text was in a really bad place because Bottles is supposed to teach me how to fill in the whole puzzle, but Grunty interrupted him. There we go. Yeah, so you learn how to fill in the whole puzzle with one button. Yeah, as I've said, there's no text skip in the Xbox version. The reason for that is kind of weird, and as far as I understand it, it's because they don't have an L button. Usually on N64 you press L, R, and B all at the same time to skip text. But on Xbox they made the L button function as the R button as well as the R button. So yeah, no text skip for us, which loses quite a lot of time. But the saving from the demo desync still outweighs it. That demo desync is called DDA, Demo Desync Adventure. What's the name of that glitch? Oh no. Alright, we're coming up to one of the hardest tricks in the run for ZZ Peak Early. Basically, we're going to clip into Frazizi Peak as Banjo. And it's kind of funny because you need a move from Frazizi Peak to do this Frazizi Peak early glitch. So it's a good thing that we have all the moves already, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to do this. And the reason that I got the Cauldron earlier is because if I don't get that Cauldron, then I have to do this glitch twice. Which I don't want to do in a marathon. But we'll see how it goes. Yeah, it's a bad trick. Alright. So we're coming in from underneath. Cool. Alright, we're in. Only missed it once. That's... Toy Story. Alright, so I have to skip this pipe jiggy because the game might crash if I get it, and then it's going to be really hard with muscle memory. But basically you get that jiggy in the pipe up there. And there's a really cool strat to get it. You can like beak bomb all the way up from the fly pad and then grab it with the end of your beak bomb. But unfortunately it's too risky to get that jiggy in a marathon. We used to think that it only crashed if you had the sandcastle cheats on, but recently I've had it crash on the any percent category, which doesn't use cheats, so yeah, it's a bad jiggy. Well, it's a great jiggy, but not on Xbox. I think it has something to do with the demo desync glitch, because there's a weird effect of the demo desync glitch, where, so Wazza the Walrus, which we're supposed to see around now, just outside of that cave there, he's actually not there if you do the demo desync. And the reason for that is because the demo file is the same file that they sort of used for the stop and swap cutscenes at the end of the game. And Wazza's not there in the stop and swap cutscenes, because otherwise he'd get in the way of Banjo. And yeah, so Wazza's not here in the demo file, which means that we can't actually get 100% on this file if we wanted to. You can only get 99 jiggies as far as I know. Nice. Oh cool, I got the water thing. I didn't need that health, but I wanted to show that you can punch the snowballs for health. That often surprises people that you can. You can also ground pound the snowballs, it's a bit harder though. That snowball punch for health is a backup strat if you take too much damage in the water, which is often the normal strat because it's really hard to not take damage in the water. So yeah, as you notice I died at the end. That's often faster than walking back to the start of the level. I also used the death and overlapped it with Mumbo's text. And what that'll do is when I transform into the bee, I don't have to read that bit of text because I've already seen it. But it doesn't lose any time because I'm waiting to die. Alright. If you jump in the cauldron, Banjo like stands somewhere in the room. You can't see him there, but he was there. Alright. Don't know why I got into Talent Drop. So we're coming near the end of Banjo levels. We have Click Clock Wood now, which we do most of it as Banjo, and then we're going to be the bee for most of the rest of the run. And the bee part is my favourite. It's why I like 80%. So this category is not all about getting good at Banjo movement, although that's extremely important. It's very much about getting good at bee movement, which is extremely counterintuitive. Alright. My goal for this, getting into Click Clock Wood, I like to get into Click Clock Wood with this timer still up for the water level. It doesn't do anything, but it's fun. So this level, the gimmick is that you go through the same area in 4 different seasons. So we're in spring to start off with, and then you kind of open summer from spring, open autumn from summer, and so on. I really like this level, it's one of my favorites. It's actually how I learned the seasons when I was a kid, and I'm sure that a lot of kids would have had the same experience. So in this game, when you ground pound, you're invincible on the recoil, so this bit, and you can use that to not take any fall damage down here. It's very useful, we'll see it a few more times in the run as well. And that's invincible from pretty much anything, so you can even use it in the Grunty fight on her homing attack that you're supposed to use gold feathers for. Now those birds, when you kill those, you get a cutscene, so I'm going to try not to kill those during this run, if I can. They do 2 damage every time they hit you though, so it can be quite dangerous if you do get hit. And most of the time, if they hit you, you're going to fall off the tree as well. We got the worst Jiggy in the game coming up. Oh no. Alright. I'll take it a bit more carefully this time. But yeah, that can happen. We just detour back up the tree though. Loses a bit of time, but it's important, because at least I didn't die, which is good. I'll show you the backup strategy for this. The reason that I don't use the backup strategy is because I want the extra life as well, but you just shoot an egg into the back of the house and you get the Jiggy, which is, in my opinion, a much better strategy. But I also, there's an extra life in there that is really important, so I'm going to get a backup one in Autumn. So I take some damage there to set up for a Death Warp here. One really good thing about Xbox... I didn't take enough damage for the Death Warp, oh well. It just take a little bit longer. There we go. One really good thing about Xbox is it saves your notes even when you die. So that's probably a frustration that a lot of people had about Banjo on N64. That the people who play it on Xbox don't have to deal with that. So it means that we can put in a lot of Death Warps in levels, like in the middle of levels. And the level where we see it most is this level, because, I mean, to get out of the seasons, it's really quick to die, rather than walking back out. If you did that on N64, your notes would be reset to 0, and you'd have to go back into summer again, and spring. So we don't usually get this extra life here, but I'm going to have to get it because I didn't get the life in the house. That's right there. I might also do a strategy where I save a life in QuickFestSpeedFest as well. There's one Death Warp at the end that doesn't save very much time, so I'm going to skip that Death Warp and have an extra life that I normally would. The reason for that is, optimally in this category you end up on 0 lives after a few levels, and being on 0 lives is bad. For the obvious reasons that you could die, of course, but also if you go too far out of bounds with 0 lives, you actually get game over. So game over is terrible in this category too, because the demo file doesn't actually save. So if the game were to crash or I got a game over or something, then I would be screwed. I do have a backup file for one of the parts where the run can go very wrong, but apart from that, yeah, I've got to not get game over or crash the game, which is why I missed the pipe jiggy, to try and make this category a little bit more marathon safe. The N64 category for any percent is actually a lot harder, but it's also more marathon safe because it's not playing on the demo file, hence it saves. But N64 any percent has a really stupid trick at the end of it, do a grunty skip, which is really hard. Alright, talking to Mumbo, and we've already seen his first text from FP, so... That text is a lot quicker than it normally would be the first time you see Mumbo. Alright. So, we just got one quick Jiggy to grab as the bee, and then we'll be out of Click Clockwood. And here's where the run gets incredibly fun. So normally I would fall down and death warp off an enemy here, but I'm going to instead just fly out of the level. It's not that much slower to fly out of the level, honestly. But I do want to be one more life up than I usually would be. Okay, now I've got another pretty hard trick. This trick's a lot easier on Xbox than N64, but it's still possible to miss it. Nice, got it. So what happens there is you hit the Cauldron cutscene and the D-transformation at the same time. Cauldron cutscene interrupts the D-transformation, so now we're the bee where we're not supposed to be. And this is going to break the game wide open. So we have an open Clanker's Cavern, but that doesn't matter because we're the bee. We can just fly over the top, go straight in. So these bee levels are why I like any percent. Much better than Banjo movement. Oh, that's bad. Now the bee doesn't like water very much, so if you hit the top of some water, the bee will kind of fly up as a reaction. So we'll see that now. I'm going to hit the top of the water and he'll fly up. But there's tons of notes underwater, so what we're going to do is going to fly out of bounds and just go around the edge of the water. And now we're underwater without being sort of underwater. You skip the trigger to tell the bee that you've hit the water, and you just go under where the water should be. So it kind of thinks we're on land, even though we technically should be underwater right now. But yeah, doing it this way skips so much time over kind of swimming down here as Banjo and getting air and swimming back up, because the bee is nice and fast. Clankus as the bee is about a minute faster than Clankus as Banjo. But the thing with the bee is there are a lot of notes and jiggies that you can't grab. So, in general, the bee does get less stuff than Banjo for most levels. Bee can still get all 100 notes in this level, which is really nice. I think you can get a lot of jiggies. But for example, I couldn't get something like the Snippets Jiggy or Clanker's Tooth Jiggy because they both involve outputting damage or eggs, which the bee can't do. So being the bee is actually quite scary because if you do take some damage, there's not really any good way to get back health. Because there's a lot of health around, but you need to be able to damage something to get that health. So these snippets can be nice or nasty, and they were nice this time. Sometimes they hit you, there's nothing you can really do about it. Sometimes they kill you, which is really bad. The general trend with the bee is we want to grab as much stuff as we can in flying, because flying is so much faster than walking. But you do gradually lose height as you're flying, so you can't grab all the notes in flying. Jiggy's just out of reach, isn't it? And this bolt pretty much determines how fast you get through the level. So when you do this level as Banjo, that bolt is much more critical, and you have to kind of do two things with it. You have to ride up the bolt, and you have to go in the bolt as Banjo. But because we can fly, we don't have to worry about riding up the bolt as the bee. We only have to worry about going in it. The bolt is on a 10-second cycle. So yeah, basically I can only lose or gain time up to entering that bolt in multiples of 10 seconds. So if I ever get like a gold on this level, it's usually a 10-second gold, which is really nice. But that doesn't happen very often because it's so hard to make another bolt cycle over what I've already done. I do think that I have one more bolt cycle that I could sort of make over my current gold, but it's really hard. Now normally you need gold feathers here, but luckily the bee's hitbox is low enough that these fans don't really bother you too much. And we're just gonna death warp in here. Usually I come in with lower health, but it's a bit risky for a marathon. And that was a like pretty good clankers. About 12 seconds away from my gold. Which I think has 10 seconds to come off it. Alright. Oops. Got a bit too excited there. I'm supposed to land on the chin, but I didn't. And yeah, I could just walk straight through the grate that guarded that Jiggy. Just with the bee's hitbox, you can do that. Now we have Bubblegly Burly coming up here. This is actually a lot harder on Xbox, because you have to sort of fly in like this. On N64 you can just clip through the door, which is much faster. But Xbox, I think, runs at 60 frames a second rather than 30, or rather than 25 if you're on PAL. So a lot of clips actually don't work on Xbox. Because it's like checking your collision so much more often. You can actually clip through the door to Bubble Bleep Swamp on Xbox, but yeah. You have to have a lot of speed to do the clip, and that speed kind of puts you back outside that little hut that Bubble Bloop Swamp is in. Yeah, a bit of history for this category actually. For a long time, any percent was basically PAL only. Because there's a different method to get the bee out of Click Like Wood on N64. And on PAL there's this clip that you can do that you can't do on NTSC. It's a similar thing with the frame rate. So yeah, people ran this on PAL for a really long time. And then Stivity Bobo found a method to get RBA, which is getting the bee out of Click Like Wood, on NTSC. And the funny thing is, I don't think that that works on PAL. So there's like a method that only works on PAL and a method that only works on NTSC. The method that you saw me do, the cauldron method, is slower because you can't kind of use the cauldrons before that. And it would be faster to use the cauldrons before that if we could. But the clips don't work on Xbox. And on N64, that cauldron method of RBA is actually like really hard. It was considered TAS only, but I disagree a little bit. I mean, you can do it, you just wouldn't want to do it in runs. But yeah, the bee feels like it moves a little bit faster on Xbox, so that's why Cauldron RBA is a little bit easier. Yeah, but now 80% is on NTSC ideally. But I still have the record for N64 and I ran it on PAL, so I mean, if anyone wants to pick up NTSC 80%, I'd be very interested to see. NTSC N64 80%. We have the runs separated on the leaderboards because there's such a history for N64 80% runs, and like having that option for N64 people to be competitive for 80% is really nice. Because not everyone has an Xbox. Alright. Alright, that is like the most terrifying part of the run there. I know I've said that about a lot of things, but that actually is. If I had messed up that trick that I did getting out of the Bubble Gloop Swamp Room, I would have de-transformed and gone back into Banjo, and that would have been just terrible. Because you need the bee to get into this level without opening it. Which you can do by falling through the top. Yeah, the other thing about PAL 80% is there's this glitch to get into Treasure Trove Cove without opening it, and it's like really hard on NTSC, but quite easy on PAL. If I had like went back to 80% on N64, I would probably still run it on PAL. Of course I love 80% because I was able to run it before I got an NTSC console. And I realized I didn't really say what PAL and NTSC was as well. NTSC is like US or Japanese consoles, and PAL is kind of Europe, Australia, and a bunch of other places. There's NTSC in other places as well. But yeah, it's like basically NTSC is US or Japanese and PAL is Europe. And yeah, PAL games are usually slower because PAL runs at 50 or 25 frames a second, NTSC runs at 60 or 30. So if you, like, if the programmers don't realize that, then their NTSC games will run like 1.2 times as fast as PAL. But luckily the Banjo programmers kind of realize that, so they adjust Banjo's speed to be faster on PAL, which exactly compensates pretty much for the slower frame rate. So yeah, Banjo isn't really too much slower on PAL, and a lot of new games do adjust the speed to compensate. But a lot of older games just don't touch it, and hence they're like really slow to play on PAL. A few cutscenes are still slower on PAL though for this game. Another interesting thing about the bee is it doesn't take damage from like swamp water or sand. I think that works for all transformations actually. Even if you're the washing machine from doing those puzzles in Banjo's house, the washing machine doesn't take damage from sand or swamp water. Alright, we're done with Gobies, and that's pretty much the last level that we're doing in full as the bee. So we're just going to use the bee to pretty much get into Mad Monster Mansion without opening it, because Banjo can't get in there, as far as we know. So yeah, we're going to use the bee to get into Mad Monster Mansion, but we're going to do most of Mad Monster Mansion's Banjo. Just grabbing a quick Lair Jiggy there. We still need 25 Jiggies to open the door of Grunty, so that's why I grabbed a lot of kind of random Jiggies as the bee. And they didn't seal up the top of this level, so we can jump straight in. Of course, Banjo can't get up there, unfortunately. If he could, then that would be really nice. Oh wow. Oh no. Now we've had a reroute to this category pretty recently where we go into the church now. O's Island found a clip here. Really good. It's kind of hard sometimes, but hopefully I can get it. Yeah, there we go. It's usually a bit more consistent than that, but yeah. It happens. Also, for some reason the clip into the church is easier on Xbox than N64. I don't know why, because most of the time B-clips work on N64 but not on Xbox, so it's kind of weird. And as soon as you enter the church door, you trigger the little jingle to let you in. You don't actually have to go into the door. You sort of have to go into the door for a little bit, and you can flip back out if you want. Alright, that's all the B stuff we're doing for this run. It's got a lot of B in it, but I would like to see more B in it. Because I like B movement. There's the option of doing Precision Peak as the B as well, but it's slower unfortunately. Unless we find like any route. Those little nibblies, the bats, they're like a lot more brutal on Xbox. So I like to go right near the kind of window bit there to make sure that it doesn't get me. Sometimes it still gets me. This is another Jiggy that can actually crash on Xbox. There's kind of this glitch that happens if you put eggs before the Jiggy, then you can teleport the Mumbo token or the extra life in this room onto that fly pad. I don't know why it works, and I really want to know why it works and if we can use it anywhere else. But yeah, so if you try that teleport glitch, it works on N64, but it just crashes the Xbox version. Yeah, it's so weird. And the pipe Jiggy that I avoided because of the crash earlier in the run is kind of a similar thing. Sometimes that can teleport the Mumbo token by the snowman's foot. This game's weird. I really want to know why those two teleport glitches work. Alright, now we got a really scary swimming section right at the end of the run. It's great, isn't it? This isn't too bad if you've got a lot of health, but yeah. Even if you come in with 2 health and you get hit by one of these things, it can knock you onto another one of them. And that should be 810 notes. Alright. Now all we have to do is go do Furnace Fun, which is the quiz, and it's not very fun. And be grunty. Now luckily we don't have to take the cauldron to get past this door anymore because, I mean, we have enough nodes. We also don't have to do 640 skip again. We can open that door. So this is the door that I skipped twice with that water clip. I was trying to get Talon trucks into loading zones there, but it wasn't giving them to me. Alright, Furnace Fun is terrible. So, it's basically a quiz about everything in the game. And it would be okay, because the runners know the game really well, but there's these questions that are about Grunty and her disgusting habits. Those questions are actually... the answers for them are chosen randomly every time you start a new game. So now that, like I'm in Furnace Fun, there is a set of answers that is correct, but I have no idea what that is yet. Luckily, the Banjo community has done a lot of work on this to make it better. There's still a ton of RNG, but we can minimize it. So that answer's wrong. So there's this calculator that we can use. And what I'm doing is I'm entering the answers. So, for example, I entered that answer is correct, and the other ones is wrong. And as you enter the answers, the calculator kind of narrows down what the possible set of answers could be. there's only 256 sets of possible answers. So my pattern, it's called, is going to be one of those 256 sets. And right now, based on the answers that I've seen so far, the calculator has narrowed it down to 25 possible sets. So yeah, as I get more answers right and wrong, that possible pattern will narrow down, and eventually I'll have my pattern, and then I won't get any answers wrong. So I've only got 10 possible patterns left now. And the calculator will tell you what the most likely answer will be, like based on what patterns it could be. So yeah, it's really nice. The calculator is a fantastic way to do it. But there is still a bit of RNG. So unfortunately, like, sometimes the run does just come down to dying to RNG. And if you get a grunty question on one of those death squares, which automatically kill you, then you could die, and it wouldn't be your fault. Cool, alright. Now, here's Furnace Fun skip. So I'm gonna get this answer wrong. Rusty Monster Bay, that sounds familiar. That death square is supposed to kill you, but if you stand in a specific spot, it doesn't succeed in throwing you into the lava. So, yeah. Basically, to throw you into the lava, it like takes down all the invisible walls on Furnace Fun, and then like tries to throw you. And yeah, if it misses, it doesn't like put the invisible walls back up. Oh no, I hit this text. This is really long. If it hits you, it doesn't put the invisible walls back up, so you can just walk to the end of Furnace Fun. If you like press A on a square, it'll still try and make you answer the question. Yeah, so that door that I just opened was called the Door of Grunty, or Dog for short. I really shouldn't have hit this text. Yeah, the Door of Grunty anyway. You can skip that door on N64 with like a really precise trick, but as far as we know, like we haven't ever been able to do it on Xbox. You clip out and then you jump back in bounce on N64. And the jump is like frame perfect and you don't know when it is because the clip is inconsistent. It's dumb. But yeah. I've done the clip out on Xbox and I've had several jumps out of that clip, but for some reason all the jumps end up back in bounds, like they don't stay out of bounds. So yeah, we don't know how to do dog skip on Xbox, and we don't know if you can do dog skip on Xbox, but it's close. Kind of makes this category a lot nicer to run though, because you don't have that stupid, like, really hard trick right at the end of the run. And most of the time with dog skip, you were like nervous because you'd had a good Furnace Fun. So yeah. Alright, I'm gonna try and go for a cutscene skip here. Hopefully I get it. Please. Ah, so close. I don't know, I've been missing that a lot lately. I don't know what's up with that. If I got that, it would have just overlapped the cutscene with Grunty talking, I think, with this cutscene and saved a bit of time. I do need to practice it. Grunty's fireballs are homing, well not homing, sorry, they like kind of project your movement speed out to where it thinks you would be if you move in a straight line, and then it aims for where that is. So you can see like by turning around after she fires them, or like you can just run in circles and you avoid them pretty easily. I don't know why I missed the last thing on that. And time's coming up. Time. Up. Not time. Sorry. Time. So that was a 109.23 from my measurements. Hopefully it's a similar thing on the screen. But yeah. So that's Banjo-Kazooie any percent now. Yeah, it's definitely come a long way. When I came to this category, it was a 119.52. So yeah, it's come down a long way. And now I've gotten any percent on N64 down to roughly a 111.30. That's the record. And the other night I had a 104 in this category, so it was like a high 104, and I want to get a 103 or a 102. So yeah, it's come down a really long way, and I'm hoping for sub-hour one day, but maybe not with the current route. Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for having me on the stream. Thank you. Crash to Insanity is going to be good.